Hollywood has always thrived on scandal, but sometimes a story drops so unexpectedly that it leaves everyone scrambling for words. When the news broke that Sam Heughan, the beloved Highland warrior of Outlander fame, had officially confirmed his romance with Dakota Johnson, the internet went up in flames. But amid the cheers, the jeers, and the endless memes, one name kept surfacing louder than any other: Caitríona Balfe. For nearly a decade, Caitríona has stood side by side with Sam as Claire to his Jamie, weaving a love story so potent on screen that fans around the world refused to believe it ended when the cameras stopped rolling. Their chemistry was intoxicating, magnetic, too perfect, too raw to be just acting. Entire online communities were built on the fantasy that Sam and Caitríona were destined for one another, that their TV romance had simply blurred into reality. So when Sam stepped into the spotlight, not with Caitríona at his side but with Dakota Johnson, the Hollywood darling known for her 50 Shades allure, it felt, to some fans, like a betrayal. And poor Caitríona? She suddenly became collateral damage in a war she never signed up for. The reaction was instantaneous and merciless. Entertainment outlets plastered headlines like, "What does Caitríona think?" and "Balfe's silence speaks volumes." As if this grown woman, with her own career, marriage, and life, existed solely to comment on Sam Heughan's dating choices. Journalists cornered her at red carpets, asking slyly whether she had known all along about Sam's secret. Others shoved microphones in her face during press junkets, determined to squeeze out some kind of soundbite they could spin into gossip gold. Her initial response? Silence. A tight smile here, a polite deflection there. But in Hollywood, silence is never just silence. It's a blank canvas, and everyone else rushes in with their brushes. Some interpreted her composure as heartbreak, the quiet dignity of a woman nursing unspoken pain. Others painted her as relieved, finally free of the endless rumors tying her name to Sam's. And of course, the crueler corners of the internet accused her of being jealous, bitter, or even secretly furious. The irony is almost too rich. Caitríona Balfe has been nothing but professional, repeatedly stating over the years that her relationship with Sam is one of deep friendship and respect. She has even laughed off the more obsessive fan theories. Yet the second Sam confirmed Dakota as his partner, the narrative twisted. Suddenly Caitríona's every move, every Instagram like, every red carpet glance, every slightly pursed lip, was dissected as her reaction. Meanwhile, the fanbase splintered like shattered glass. Longtime Outlander devotees who had shipped Sam and Caitríona for years took to social media with hashtags like #SamandCaitForever and #JusticeForCaitríona. Some even accused Dakota of stealing Sam, as though love were a possession to be snatched. Others rolled their eyes and mocked the hysteria, pointing out that Caitríona has been married for years and has likely long since moved past any fantasy the fans still cling to. The whole thing became less about reality and more about projection, people seeing what they wanted to see, regardless of the truth. But here's the kicker. Caitríona couldn't win, no matter what she did. If she spoke out in support of Sam and Dakota, she risked being painted as insincere. If she stayed silent, she was labeled jealous or wounded. If she cracked a joke, she'd be accused of bitterness. Hollywood thrives on these traps, and Caitríona, through no fault of her own, had walked straight into one. The cruelest part? This wasn't even her story. Yet, somehow, she had become a central character in a love triangle the tabloids gleefully invented. Sam and Dakota were the shiny new couple, yes, but Caitríona was the emotional anchor, the ghost at the feast, the woman whose imagined heartbreak kept fans and gossip rags frothing. And that's the tragedy of it. Caitríona's legacy as a powerhouse actress and producer was suddenly overshadowed by whispers about her reaction to a romance she had nothing to do with. In Hollywood, perception often matters more than reality, and the perception was clear. Whether she liked it or not, Caitríona Balfe was now a headline. So the question lingers, heavy and unresolved. Was her silence the mark of a dignified professional refusing to feed the gossip machine? Or was it hiding a truth she simply couldn't say out loud? As the dust settled from Sam Heughan and Dakota Johnson's explosive revelation, Hollywood realized it had found its newest obsession. Yet, instead of the spotlight resting solely on the new couple, it seemed to shift, unfairly, relentlessly, back onto Caitríona Balfe. She wasn't the one confessing a secret romance. She wasn't the one photographed holding hands in some dimly lit restaurant. And yet, she became the unwilling prism through which the entire saga was refracted. Why? Because Hollywood adores a triangle. Love stories are dull without tension, and what better subplot than the supposed heartbreak of the woman who, for years, embodied Sam Heughan's on-screen soulmate? The headlines wrote themselves. Caitríona reacts. Balfe caught off guard. Claire left behind? It didn't matter that Caitríona had never suggested such feelings existed off-screen. The myth was juicier than the truth, so the myth prevailed. Behind closed doors, industry insiders feasted on the drama. At dinner parties in Beverly Hills and cocktail bars in Soho, whispers grew louder. Some claimed Caitríona was furious at being dragged into a circus she never asked for. Others insisted she had known about Sam and Dakota for months but had chosen to remain graciously silent. A particularly cruel rumor painted her as heartbroken and betrayed, a woman forced to smile while the man fans insisted was her destiny walked off into the sunset with someone else. And, of course, every whisper was repeated, twisted, and published in the gossip columns by morning. In Hollywood, rumor is sport, and Caitríona had unwillingly become the season's MVP. If the media was merciless, the fandom was outright vicious. Social media turned into a battleground, with #Team Caitríona and #Team Dakota trending in alternating waves. Fans of Sam and Caitríona clung desperately to their fantasy, blasting Dakota as an intruder who had ruined the magic. Some even went so far as to spam Dakota's social media with snake emojis and cryptic references to Outlander's storyline, as though reality and fiction were interchangeable. On the other side, Dakota's defenders mocked the outrage, dismissing the Outlander fandom as delusional. Newsflash, one viral tweet read, "Sam and Caitríona are actors. It's called acting. Get over it." Caught in the middle was Caitríona herself, watching as strangers on the internet fought bloody wars in her name, over a romance that wasn't hers to begin with. Her name was weaponized, her silence twisted into ammunition. Every day, her mentions filled with fans begging her to speak out, as though she were obligated to confirm or deny someone else's love life. And here lies the cruel irony. Caitríona Balfe has always been celebrated for her composure, her intelligence, her ability to rise above the noise. Yet the more she tried to remain professional, the more the vultures circled. In interviews, when she smiled politely and redirected questions back to her work, the tabloids screamed, "Balfe dodges question on Sam's new love." When she posted a neutral Instagram photo about a charity project, headlines twisted it into cryptic post amid Sam Dakota scandal. It became a pressure cooker. How does a woman balance her career, her marriage, and her friendships when the world insists on scripting her into a melodrama she never agreed to star in? Caitríona had always prided herself on drawing a firm line between her private life and her professional one, but Hollywood had just bulldozed that line. Of course, in true Hollywood fashion, even Caitríona's non-reaction became content. Talk show hosts turned it into a running gag. "We don't know what Caitríona thinks about Sam and Dakota. But don't worry, we'll spend 20 minutes analyzing her eyebrow raise." Gossip bloggers joked that Caitríona's silence had more depth than most Oscar-winning performances. The absurdity would almost be funny, if it weren't so exhausting for the woman at the center of it all. Beneath the satire and speculation, one undeniable fact emerged. Caitríona was carrying a burden she didn't deserve. She wasn't angry, she wasn't jealous, she wasn't even particularly invested. But being dragged into a public scandal has a way of eroding even the strongest resolve. Hollywood's hunger for drama had turned her into a character in someone else's story, and that kind of spotlight burns. And so, we're left with a question that no tabloid, no fan war, no gossip blogger can answer. What does Caitríona Balfe truly think? Is her silence a shield, a way of protecting her peace from the chaos swirling around her? Or does it hide unspoken truths, feelings too complicated for the world's greedy gaze? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear. In the grand spectacle of Sam Heughan and Dakota Johnson's love story, Caitríona has become the unintended mirror, reflecting not her own feelings, but the fantasies, projections, and obsessions of everyone else.